Hi, Rosie Dupan here, and I'm just going to take you through, so look, 5 things to think about to help reduce your pregnancy and postpartum back pain. The first thing that you need to think about with back pain is it's not a normal thing to happen to you when you're pregnant. It's the result, symptoms of misalignment and lack of strength in your core and too much tucking of the pelvis. So the first thing you need to think about is your alignment. So I want you to think to put your hands on your hips here, but you should feel bony lumps underneath your fingers. Those are your hip bones. And then if you find your pubic bone just down here, those points should line up. So this is a tucked pelvis. You can see the pubic bone is further forwards than the hip bones, or you might have them tucked out with the pubic bone further back than the hip bones. Both of those are going to stress your lumbar spine. So something to start working on is just spending time to get your pelvis in alignment. The other thing that causes pregnancy backache is arching the back, so thrusting the ribs forwards. Gives you that, typical pregnant look. And what it does is it crushes all the lumbar spine and the lumbar discs together and gives you that horrible back pain. So find the bottom of your ribs just under your boobs, and they need to line up again with those hip bones. So you almost, you're rolling them forwards. Now you might feel like you're round backed, got a bit of a rounded shoulders here when you're doing that, and that's just showing some tension in your shoulders. So something you will need to work on in your exercise program for pregnancy is releasing that tension in the shoulders and getting the shoulder blades and the shoulder joint mobile and working independently of each other. The next thing to think about is sitting. We do a lot of sitting, and we tend to sit in chairs like this, slouched under, maybe a little bit of an exaggeration, but you're actually sitting on the back of your pelvis. If you do the test, you'll see that your pubic bone is really far forward from your hips. Now what you're doing here is you're not only compressing your lumbar spine, you're also causing pressure and tension in your sacrum and your coccyx. When it comes to birthing, these two areas really need to open up to allow your baby to easily pass through and to avoid you getting a bruised coccyx or slowing down labour and causing issues in labour. You're also encouraging your baby in a more in a kind of back-to-back position, a less than optimal position, because there's gravity will kind of pull them down so that their spine lays along your spine. So whenever you're sitting, whether you're in the office or in the car or at home, I want you to really think about pelvic alignment. And the easiest way to do this is grab, this is a half dome. I really recommend getting one of these. All my women in my classes, I recommend they all get one of these because they're so useful. If you haven't got one, a rolled up towel works really well. You're just going to sit to the edge of the chair and allow your pelvis to roll forwards on the half dome so that you are in a beautifully aligned position for your pelvis. This means that as you're sitting, you're working on getting your pelvis realigned and into neutral while you're doing something else, which is always wonderful, but you're also you're stopping any tension happening in the sacrum and the coccyx and the lower lumbar spine region. So it also eases pressure on your pelvic floor and your abdominal muscles, so it's going to reduce your likelihood of suffering with sneeze, pee and incontinence during pregnancy and afterwards, and also going to allow your stomach muscles to close up nicely so that you are less likely to have diastasis recti at the end. The next thing to think about is when you're doing things like the squats. I'm just going to check my notes to make sure I'm covering everything. Yes, so when you're doing mini squats or bending over to pick things up, really want you to concentrate on doing it without rounding your spine or over concaving your spine. So it can be quite hard to know whether you're doing this. So an easy way to find out is to get a broomstick or some kind of long stick and hold it. Actually, this is probably not the best colour to have done. Hold it against your back so that you've got your upper back and your pelvis against the stick. There should be a gap here where your lumbar spine naturally curves in. And then start thinking about hinging forward. So when you move, your hips should be your hinging joint. So as you hinge forward, everything should stay, your sacrum should stay against the stick and your upper back should stay against the stick, and that space, that lumbar curve does not increase or decrease at all. And using this stick helps you to find your range of motion, where your range of motion ends. You don't want to be doing, so for example, if you were doing a mini squat, you don't want to be thinking too much of sticking your bum out and making that gap huge as you're doing your squats, because you're going to put your lumbar spine under pressure. The same if you're picking something up, you can come to the end of your range of motion, then you can bend your knees. As you're picking that thing up, press your weight down into your heels as you're standing up, and that fires up your glutes. Strengthening your glutes is going to be fantastic for stabilizing your pelvis and reducing your risk of pelvic pain, incontinence and sneeze pee, and pelvic floor issues during pregnancy and afterwards as well. The next thing to think about is breathing and the way you breathe. You want to be breathing into using your ribs rather than your stomach. So if you put your hands with your fingers touching in front of you, as you breathe in and your ribs expand, your fingers move further apart, and as you exhale, they're coming back together. So practice breathing like this maybe 10, 15 times, even just 5 times every day, just to kind of start to get that, kick that habit of getting back into your natural breathing pattern. The next breath, so we've done your alignment, how to sit, thinking about your alignment as you bend over, rib breathing. The next thing I want you to think about is working the core as you breathe. So practice, I'd say 5 to 8 times every day, this candles breathing. So you're going to take a breath in. As you breathe out, you want to feel those abdominal muscles firing up. So take a breath in with me now. And exhale. You can feel those muscles kicking in and firing up. That's your natural reflexive core. And as that strengthens, it will support your lower spine as well. And the last thing is thinking about pelvic mobility. You want your pelvis to be able to work independently of your spine. So an easy way to do this, I don't know if it's easy for you to see, is to just think about circling your pelvis. So you can do nice big circles and little circles, and you really want to make sure that you're keeping your upper body still as you're doing the circling. So it's all from here. And you can play and do some figure of 8s, and you can do some figure of 8s this way, and you can even rock side to side that way. But just anything that gets that pelvis mobile. This will also help you when it comes to birthing, that your pelvis is able to move and rock as it needs to through each contraction. So I hope that's been useful. Any comments or problems, then do please comment below, or you can email me. All right, bye bye.